Thank you. Madam Deputy Speaker, Honourable Prime Minister, Honourable Leader of the Opposition and fellow members of Parliament, members of the public in the gallery and those of you listening in to this live broadcast. I rise to address an issue of urgent national and global importance, which is the current fuel crisis that is affecting economies, livelihoods and the daily lives of our people. This crisis is not isolated. It is part of a wider global disruption driven by geopolitical tensions and supply constraints. At the center of this instability lies the Strait of Hormuz, a critical artery through which much of the world's oil supply flows. Any disruption in this region sends shockwaves across the global economy, and we are now witnessing those consequences firsthand. Honourable members, the impact of this crisis is increasingly being felt in every corner of our nation. The rising cost of fuel is leading to high transport expenses, increased food prices, and a growing pressure on households already struggling to make ends meet. Businesses are facing high operating costs, which in turn affects employment and economic growth. For a country like ours, which relies heavily on imported fuel, these challenges are even more severe. We are vulnerable to external shocks that are beyond our direct control. The Ministry, in collaboration with the PM's Office, Ministry of Defence and Veteran Affairs and National Security Committee, the Ministry of Finance and Fiji Competition and Consumer Commission, FCCC, EFL, the Fuel Advisory Committee, the Fiji Cluster System under the Ministry of Rural and Maritime Development and National Disaster Risk Management and industry suppliers and stakeholders has maintained a robust monitoring framework to safeguard fuel supply across the country. I wish to assure the House and the people of Fiji that our current fuel stocks are adequate and supply remains stable under normal operating conditions. Fiji's fuel supply situation was reaffirmed by the Minister of Foreign Affairs and External Trade, Honourable Sakya Sinditoka, with his recent high-level engagements in Singapore, whose refineries supply Fiji, with the Singapore government and supplies to Fiji, namely Pacific Energy, ExxonMobil and Total Energies, who are sourcing crude from a variety of sources other than via the Strait of Hormuz, therefore increasing resilience, sustainability and diversity. Honourable Minister Sinditoka and his team also held ministerial level engagements in Canberra, where the Australian government has assured its full support. I thank him and his team for undertaking such critical mission for the nation. As at 27 of April, the total fuel stock available on land stands at 42.1 million litres. A recent shipment on 22nd April with about 17.2 million litres replenished stock levels that was consumed. When combined with remaining confirmed shipments arriving this month, the total consumed fuel available to the economy is 67.44 million litres, with national daily consumption averaging approximately 2.5 million litres. This places our current storage level at about 49.7% of total onshore tank capacity. Looking ahead to the end of the month, the Ministry projects that stock levels will reduce to approximately 39.2 million litres, representing 29% of total storage capacity. I wish to emphasize that this reduction is not a cause for alarm. Rather, it is normal and deliberate function of the supply chain. Fuel inventories must be drawn down to create the necessary ullage, i.e., empty storage space to safely receive incoming shipments scheduled for May. Madam Deputy Speaker, in terms of our outlook for May and June, I am advised that a significant volume of fuel, 118.55 million litres, has already been paid for, with final shipping confirmations being done. This is a routine commercial process as shipping schedules are finalized. Based on current expectations, a substantial portion of this fuel will arrive in early May, with a further 17.2 million litres confirmed for June. As these shipments arrive as scheduled, we anticipate the national stock levels will recover and exceed 59% of storage capacity by the end of May. The Ministry continues to undertake ongoing measures, conducting daily monitoring of stock levels and consumption patterns in real time, maintaining active engagement with suppliers to expedite confirmation of shipment arrival dates. Fiji remains in phase 1, which reflects normal operating conditions. 4, we are strengthening contingency preparedness by identifying additional buffer storage capacity. This includes 5.52 million litres at retail service stations and 7.2 million liters at Energy Fiji Limited facilities, along with other available depots. Additionally, the government retains policy flexibility to adjust the 9.2% of fuel typically re-exported to our Pacific Island neighbors should it become necessary to prioritize domestic supply. At this stage, however, such measures are not required. The government wishes to assure all Fijians that fuel supplies are being managed prudently and responsibly. While a temporary reduction in stock levels is expected at the end of this month, this is a routine part of the fuel import cycle and is necessary to accommodate incoming shipments. The situation remains stable, but it requires close and continuous monitoring. The Ministry will continue to provide regular updates as per the current reporting and monitoring structures relating to these agencies, and as already alluded to by the Minister for Rural Development, including the legislative and regulatory frameworks, predominantly the Fuel and Power Emergency Act and related regulations, which specify the declaration of a fuel emergency as and when necessary, supply control, control of use, enforcement, and prioritization of essential services. Furthermore, we must promote energy efficiency across all sectors by encouraging responsible consumption, improving public transportation, supporting innovation in energy technologies. We can reduce the overall burden of fuel demand. At the same time, government must continue to provide targeted support to vulnerable households and essential industries to cushion the impact of rising costs. The government has acted quickly in terms of mitigation measures for the rising fuel costs and, of course, is actively actioning mitigation measures as already announced by the Honourable Prime Minister as follows. As per the Cabinet decision, approve the redeployment of $56 million with the existing 26 budget to respond to the impact of the global fuel crisis. This is not new borrowing, this is responsible government financial management, deprioritizing funds to provide immediate support where it is needed most. The focus is simple: protect livelihoods, maintain essential services, and support the most vulnerable. We have to keep Fiji moving. Government has allocated $4 million to support bus operators and ensure there is no disruption to public transport services. For the next 4 months, from 1st April to 31st July, government will fully absorb an additional 10% fare increase on top of existing bus fares. This is in addition to the current 10% subsidy already provided to passengers. On top of that, government will provide fuel rebate of 20 cents per litre to all bus companies during this period. This support ensures that our buses continue to operate and that ordinary Fijians can continue to travel affordably to school, work, and other essential services. At the same time, we are acting to keep the lights on Energy Fiji Limited. Energy Fiji Limited relies on diesel and heavy fuel oil for approximately half of the country's electricity generation. To ensure there is no disruption to power supply, the government will provide fuel rebates to EFL for the next 4 months. This includes 20 cents per litre on diesel and 12 cents per litre on heavy fuel oil, HFO. This support will stabilize electricity generation and ensure that homes, businesses, and essential services continue to have reliable power during this period. We also focus on protecting those who need help the most. With rising fuel prices, increasing the cost of living, government will provide a temporary 50% top-up to all social welfare recipients for 3 months, from 1st May to 31st July. This measure, costing approximately $24 million, is designed to give immediate relief to vulnerable households and ensure that no one is left behind during this difficult period. In addition, we are supporting our rural economy and our farmers. A total of $28 million has been allocated for the sugarcane price top-up for the 2025 crop season. This will help stabilize incomes for our cane farmers and ensure continued production in one of our key sectors. All these measures, as you are aware, totaling $56 million, are being funded through savings with existing budget. And government has taken responsible steps to redeploy. At the same time, all ministries, departments, and agencies have been directed to implement strict cost-cutting measures. Government is tightening its own belt. A 20% reduction in base salaries for the Honourable PM, Leader of Opposition, Ministers, Assistant Ministers, and Members of Parliament is proposed. These measures are a first step and other measures are being considered as the situation evolves. We must all work together as a nation to face the challenge. In the short term, governments must act swiftly to stabilize fuel supply. This includes managing fuel reserves responsibly, preventing hoarding, and ensuring fair distribution. Essential services such as hospitals, transportation, and food supply chains must be prioritized. At the same time, more targeted subsidies can be provided to vulnerable communities. We must, as elected representatives, also encourage our citizens to play their part. Simple actions such as reducing unnecessary travel, using public transport, conserving energy can collectively make a significant difference. In times of crisis, small individual efforts can lead to meaningful national impact. The FCCC, in consultation with the Fuel Advisory Committee under the Fuel Emergency Act and regulations, will continue to regulate prices in consultation with the fuel controller via the least cost methodology. Increases are inevitable given the current price of crude, which has seen prices jumping from 60 to 75%. I repeat and emphasize, increases are inevitable given the current price of crude and the volatility in the market and the uncertain political situation up to today in the Middle East and in the Gulf areas. Looking ahead, we must focus on strengthening our resilience, diversifying fuel import sources, as already mentioned with the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs consultations in Singapore, will reduce dependence on any single region and protect us from sudden disruptions. Investing in better storage facilities will allow us to maintain reserves that can be used during emergencies. Furthermore, improving efficiency in transport and industry will help us reduce fuel consumption. And the crisis also presents us a moment of reckoning and an opportunity for decisive action. We must acknowledge that our dependence on imported fossil fuels exposes us to recurring instability. It is therefore imperative that we take strategic steps to strengthen and enhance our energy security. This includes investing in renewable energy sources such as solar, wind, and hydropower, which are not only sustainable but also reduce our reliance on volatile global markets. The Ministry is working on fast-tracking utility-scale solar projects, prioritizing the evaluation, approval, and execution of investor-led solar projects, targeting an additional 50 megawatts of solar capacity within 24 months, removing barriers to rooftop solar and distributed generation, streamlining permitting, net metering, grid connection processes to encourage widespread adoption of solar by households, businesses, and government facilities. 3, facilitating renewable energy investment pipelines through a dedicated interagency task force to proactively match investor interests with priority sites, example, government buildings, airports, water treatment plants, etc., to maximize fuel displacement and emergency resilience benefits. For example, diesel water solar pumps, diesel pumps to solar water pumps at boreholes. 4, integrating renewable energy targets into the national fuel and power emergency regulations and including deployment milestones as a formal mitigation measure, reporting annually on the reduction in fossil fuel import dependency. 5, securing enabling agreements via the Ministry of Finance and the Attorney General's Office to expedite the negotiation and execution of power purchase agreements, land leases, and other instruments required to realize investor-funded solar projects. The current challenge requires unity, foresight, and decisive leadership. Let us all work together to protect our people, strengthen our resilience, and build a more secure and sustainable energy for the future of our nation. Nawalip.